Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our board meeting tonight. It's 7:05 p.m. We are going to reconvene to public session. We will now have a report of our closed session action items.
Move to ratify student expulsion report number 22/23-15 and 22/23-16.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mr. Messina, to approve the ratifications of student expulsion reports number 22/23-15 and -16. All in favor?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. We will reestablish the quorum. Debbie?
Mr. Messina?
Here.
Dr. Moore?
Present.
Mrs. Storley is here. Mr. Webb is not here at the moment. Mr. Jensen?
Present.
And student board member.
So we do have a quorum. Thank you, Debbie. We'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance. I've asked Virginia Ryan to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If we would all stand, please. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Virginia, thank you for leading us in that. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Next is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mrs. Storley to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? Aye. And the chair says aye. Next are the minutes to approve of the regular meeting of January 18th, 2023. Motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Mr. Messina to approve the minutes of January 18th, 2023. All in favor?
Abstain.
You guys in favor of?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Yes.
Dr. Moore abstains, and student board member?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Did you get all that, Debbie?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on now to recognitions. We have none, so we'll move on to communications. And first off is board member reports. Mr. Messina, we'll have you go first.
Sure. Still in the spirit of Black History Month, I'd like to share a story that I know probably many haven't heard yet. Let me tell you about the abolitionist known as John Quincy Adams. I think it'll put into perspective and help some people understand why you don't win some things overnight. So just like freedom doesn't happen in a vacuum, it's not luck, it takes time. When John Quincy Adams' term as president ended, he went home and he ran for Congress for one reason and one reason only. He wanted to abolish slavery. He gets into a pro-slavery Congress where they don't even want him there, but he keeps coming back week after week, month after month, year after year. He kept bringing petition after petition, bill after bill, trying to end slavery. The pro-slavery Congress got so irritated with him, they nicknamed him the Hellhound of Slavery. They passed the John Quincy Adams gag order because they don't want him coming up and speaking to it. He ignores the order and he keeps speaking to it. He kept coming up again, week after week, month after month for 13 years. He fought without seeing any progress. At one meeting, a reporter asked him, "What are you doing? What is the point? You've been doing this for 13 years, you've got no results and no movement." Adams' response to it is very simple. He said, "Duty is ours, results are God's." He said, "I'm doing my duty. I'm going to leave the results to God." He never saw an end to slavery in his lifetime. 4 years later, he died on the floor of Congress, still fighting to end slavery. He never saw the end of slavery. But in his last 2 years, he served with a young man that came in. He was a mentor to him. He became so close that the young man was a pallbearer at Adams' funeral. He taught this young man everything he knew about slavery and how to end it, how to deal with the law and how to beat it. That young man went home. He didn't get reelected. For many offices he ran over and over and over again, never got elected. He doesn't win another federal election for 15 years. But when he wins, he is the next president of the United States. Abraham Lincoln implemented the same three-step plan that John Quincy Adams had been working on for 17 years. So as Americans, I say you never give up. If you know what you're doing is right, you keep fighting.
Thank you, Joe. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, President Jensen. A few things. So it is Black History Month, but we know that you shouldn't just celebrate history in 1 month. History's living, and it's not just 28 days to recognize, but we are having an art show on the 28th of this month in this room, and I want to make sure that we invite everyone here to come out and see student art and celebrate learning about others through the theme that embraces our values in the strategic plan of community, caring, creativity, and courage. So hope to see you there on the 28th. Bowman, I went to visit, I've been to a lot of schools in the last 2 weeks, and I was at Bowman on Monday and notified that they were again selected as a model school, and that is a huge recognition and celebration honor for them, although they have been a model school since 1999. So to have that continuous record means that they're doing some amazing things there. I also was able to visit Golden Oak Adult School, and that, as you know, has a very special place for me. I worked there and have worked in that area for many, many years, and know that when you are able to impact the lives of families, you can change trajectories, and that school is certainly impacting the lives of families by helping many of our parents. One of the things that they have done, and I want to share it with all the board members, is they actually put together their first magazine, and it is the Golden Oak Adult School first semi-annual literary magazine, and it has poems and stories written by the students. This year, Golden Oak will celebrate 75 years. It is our second oldest school in the district. So people might not know everything that happens there, but know that amazing work has happened there. Amazing families have been changed through that school. I've seen high school students graduate the same year as some of their parents get their high school diploma, and it's just amazing there. So celebrate with us this year. Adult Ed Week is coming up next month, and I know we'll be doing some fantastic things there. And I also went to a number of other schools, and it's just wonderful to see the learning that's happening on our campuses. I spent time with Principal Holcomb, who will be here tonight sharing about Canyon High School. We had a wonderful visit and met your wonderful team who's here with you, and looking forward to the presentation on the GANAS program and all the great things there. It was really a wonderful, wonderful visit, so I thank you so much for that. Golden Valley, Saugus, Placerita, I love being able to be on the campus and talk with our students and staff. So it's been a wonderful few weeks. Last week while I was visiting, I made a special effort to check in with our counselors because it was National Counselor Appreciation Week, and to tell them thank you for the good work that they do directly. They make a difference every day too. Want to also remind you that on the 25th, we have the Many Families One Community event at Golden Valley High School. It will be from, I believe, 9 until 2:30 or so. There'll be a lot of resources for our families there. We are many families with many different needs and many backgrounds, but we're one community. This event shows that and brings us all together, so I hope to see you there as well. With Mr. Jensen and Mr. Webb, we had our budget study session last week on the 9th, and our budget is what allows us to really prioritize our values and make sure that we are doing things that we say we want to do by putting the money behind it. And if you want to know what that's about, that meeting was that opportunity. We publicized it, and it was televised, and there weren't enough people here to see the budget open and the books open. So we do this every year. I want to make sure that you know there's full transparency in our money and our funding, so you're part of it. It's your tax dollars. It's not our money, it's your money. So please be a part of that going forward. And then West Ranch High School basketball team. Woo, they're doing some amazing things. They won again last night. I went to the game Friday. I was there last night and just excited for their next game against Harvard Westlake on Friday.
Stealing Bob's thunder.
So that's all I have to share.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Mrs. Storley.
Okay, so I'll just check 6 of mine. No, actually, this past 2 weeks, I've been to the doctors and home. So that's basically where I've been. But I would like to point out that on Saturday, March 11th at Rancho Pico Junior High School, 5 of our Santa Clarita Valley schools are getting together and a partnership to host a teacher recruitment. And that's something, if you know someone that's got a credential and that wants to teach, we'd love to see them. And we'd love to see them there and show them what we have to offer. And we would really appreciate that. Besides that, I haven't been to a school in the last 2 weeks because I've been to the doctor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Storley. Well, I was impressed with our budget study session on the 9th of February. As Dr. Moore said, there weren't too many people that attended, but it was very nicely prepared and presented by Ralph Peshek and by his folks in his department. And the thing I wanted everyone to remember is the budget. Our budget is a living document, will always change, will be changing forever, but we're going to monitor it and stay on top of it, and it's good for everyone to know about it. So come and attend again if you can. Bowman, I wanted to congratulate them for their award. I've said it before, they are the model continuation school in the state of California, and this award that they've won emphasizes that, and they continue to maintain their status as the top model school of continuation education in the state of California, and they've done an outstanding job. And I did want to encourage as many people as possible to attend the art show. It's here in this room on February 28th, as has been discussed before. Should be a very nice event to be at. So with that, we'll have our student board member make her report.
May I just ask a question? Can people still see the YouTube of the financial meeting that we had?
Yes,
It's still up, so if you weren't here, you can still, the budget, I got to watch it from at home, and it's very interesting and very complicated. So take a look if you want to see where our money comes from and where it goes to. Thank you so much.
Student board member.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I primarily wanted to highlight 2 things this report. First, I wanted to echo Mr. Jensen and Dr. Moore's invitation and encouragement to attend the February 28th Black History Art Museum. As of right now, we have around 30 to 31 submissions from students, and we are really excited. We really believe we're partnering with Santa Clarita City as well, and it's going to be really fun. So again, it is February 28th at 6 p.m. here. Also, this past Monday, I attended another SEC meeting. For those that aren't aware, SEC stands for Student Communications Council, and here we primarily emphasized working with our DEFY program, which is our drug-free youth program, to see how we could make improvements to the program, how we can impact more students' lives to a greater extent, and what we're already doing currently that we are strong in and that we want to continue doing within this progression. So we focused on trying to identify the why on why not to do drugs rather than explicitly stating just not to do it. We noticed that more students, especially with a stronger access or an easier access to the internet and to knowledge and resources, they question more, and because of that we need to have explicit explanations in order to truly make impacts. We did identify that the programs are stronger and more apparent within junior highs currently. So we're looking at the strengths that the junior highs have and seeing how we could implement that within some of our high schools. And we are again focusing on more student-led contributions within this program. Again, we noticed that students pay attention to others, and the more that we include students in the process of these different changes, the more we can reach out to our campuses. That's my report. Thank you.
Mr. Coleman, you had some comments?
Yes, wanted to share with you, we're amazed at the creativity of our students in the Hart District, and as an example, we wanted to give you a preview of one of the students who has submitted something for the upcoming Black History Art Show, and I will turn that over to Ms. Dunn to give a brief introduction.
So we asked the students to submit a photo in advance and give their work a title and a brief summary. So this is a piece of art created by Savannah Boyehan, and her title is Daisy Gatson Bates. And her summary is, Daisy Bates was an American civil rights activist, publisher, journalist, and lecturer who played a leading role in the Little Rock integration crisis of 1957. Bates planned the strategy for desegregation in the state of Arkansas, and she selected the 9 students who would later be known as the Little Rock 9, driving them to school and protecting them from crowds. I chose Daisy because she's not very well known, but played a big role in the civil rights movement.
Just love that. Please come out and see it. We've seen some of the examples, and it just warms your heart. It's a wonderful opportunity, so please come join us. Also wanted to give an update, as promised in a previous board meeting, that we, on February 2nd, we convened our advisory panel for coming up with ideas on how to honor first responders. That's our police, military, and first responders. And we are going to bring back to the board a more thorough summary of what came up with that. I wanted to thank Ms. Cox for joining us to be part of that. But as promised, I said on this date, I would share with you a little bit of the feedback from that group. We had parents and students and staff members and a member of law enforcement came and joined us. And some of the themes that came from that were the idea that all of our high school sites would have one of those walls that we see at 3 of our sites currently that honors law enforcement, that we would designate we would set aside specific days annually to observe honoring the military, the law enforcement, and first responders. And we talked about as well using the video systems at our school sites to have our SROs featured on a more regular basis so that people can learn to see them as the wonderful human beings that they are. Sometimes I think we think of police in a certain kind of way, and it's helpful to see them as human beings. And so we talked about incorporating that more often. So some great ideas came from that, and more for the board in the coming weeks. And finally, we have promised that over the next, the last board meeting and the next 2, that we would share a continuing, we would extend our effort to ensure that folks are paying attention to the concern about the fentanyl crisis here in our valley. And the way that we're doing that is by featuring one of the videos created by students. This one was created, was called One Pill Will Kill, and I believe this was Golden Valley students, and I'd like to show that now.
Okay, Mr. Coleman, thank you for your comments and information. We're going to move on to the next part of our agenda, which is employee association leadership. First is John Minkus, but John, we have a speaker before you get up here. Diane Zimmerman.
Mike, did you get?
Just got it.
Okay.
Yeah, you better start my time. This will be very short. I just keep preaching about getting your hands on a copy of a book called Standing Against Goliath by Rebecca Friedrichs, and it's about the teachers' unions and the damage they have inflicted on all of the children in government-run schools since their inception. Did you know that if a child cannot read by third grade, facts prove that the child will probably have a very difficult time in life unless he or she pushes themselves to learn to read. Even the blind learn to read one way or another if they push themselves or have wonderful parents and teachers who push them to learn to read. And you know how the blind read, so don't, say I'm saying they can see with their eyes. Anyway, thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Minkus.
Hey, good evening, school board, student board member, President Mr. Jensen, Superintendent Kuhlman, and staff. Thank you, as usual, for letting me speak with you tonight. Am I out close enough? Oh, okay. I first wanted to congratulate CSEA on completion of their contract negotiations. We couldn't do our jobs without you. We appreciate the collaboration between our associations. HDTA also looks forward to beginning work right away on negotiations for the 23-24 successor agreement and our continued collaboration. Tonight, I would like to comment on one emphasis of the strategic plan addressed recently, and that is the concept of equitable, not to counter or supplant, but complement. Focus Area 3 of the plan is entitled Access and Equity and focuses on across-the-board student access. The idea of equitable is also addressed in Focus Area 1, setting a priority on equitable grading. When addressing this goal, it is of utmost importance that we do it without infringing on the creativity and independence spawned from our academic freedoms, and with a respect for the learned pedagogy and quality education provided by our Hart District teachers. By definition, equitable means fair and impartial. Impartial seems pretty simple, that it will apply to everyone. But fair is a tough one. Fair seems to imply a level of comparison. So in one sense, we want everyone to have the same treatment while recognizing the need for individual adjustment. Although the intent is understood, the difficulty here is evident. Sort of a, how can different be the same? In terms of equitable grading, as much as the intent will be the same, which is fairly qualifying student mastery, the course for teaching, learning, and grading will vary from individual to individual. Same standards, multiple means, equitable opportunity. When we look at other areas affected by equitability, we need to look at the specific objectives in Focus Area 3. We want to provide equity of access to a rigorous course of study. But do we do it at the expense of the breadth of our offerings, especially in the elective areas? We want to provide equity of access to a full range of opportunities. But do we do it at the expense of the exceptional educational experience of our own Hart District programs and classrooms? We want to provide equity of access to athletics and co-curriculars. But do we do it at the expense of a reliance on volunteers and the limited offering of small stipends? In order to achieve these goals, the district should not direct our classrooms, but should provide guidance and resources, support collaboration and cooperation, and engage in assessment and feedback for individual classrooms. Equitable manifests itself in many ways and places, but not as equal, that of being the same, identical, or indistinguishable. We cannot script a teacher playbook. Just as was reinforced in our recent professional development on co-teaching and universal design for learning, we understand what works for one may not for another. We as teachers must predict, react, and adapt to the individual in providing access and equity. We are all individuals. We all have individual needs, but we all are one heart. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next up is President Janice Dennington from California School Employees Association. Janice, welcome tonight.
Mr. Jensen, can we just say that Mr. Webb has joined us by teleconference for tonight's
Sure.
meeting?
Welcome, James. Glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jensen. Sorry I was a little late.
No problem.
Good evening, President Jensen, board members, Superintendent Coleman, cabinet, and guests. Let's take a moment to reflect on the Super Bowl. It was the Eagles and the Chiefs. Fourth quarter, 35-35, 2 minutes left. I was rooting for the Eagles. Oh well. But in all that excitement, I took a step back. I began to consider the collective conscientiousness of a team, the hours of preparation that led to that moment that must be invested, not in one person, but a vision for all. The whole team striving towards greatness and one common goal. To me, that was a nod to our negotiating teams working together. Or in the words of Vince Lombardi, individual commitment to a group effort. That's what makes a team work. A company work, society work, a civilization work. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce CSEA and the district have signed a tentative agreement for the 22-23 school year. The collaboration, cooperation, and teamwork of all parties involved has proved to be a testament to our desire to retain and attract quality candidates to serve our most precious gifts, our students and community. CSEA is now looking forward to board approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Love the sports analogy. Very nice. Well done.
And thank you for the candy. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to school site report, Canyon High School. We do have 2 speaker cards, so we'll take the 2 speakers first, and then we'll have the presentation by Principal Shelley Holcomb. So first is Chris Jackson. After Chris is Victoria Robinson.
My name is Chris Jackson. I have taught at Canyon for over 20 years. I currently teach math, coach cross country, and track. Now Canyon High School is the school I'm sure you're all aware of where the last 2 superintendents have come from. Not only that, numerous former Canyon teachers now serve as department chairs, literacy coaches, and have served as TOSAs in our district. Our school produces leaders who care about students and who contribute to making meaningful impact on student lives and student learning. In terms of wellness, Canyon was one of the first schools to hire a wellness coordinator. And in fact, our wellness coordinator, Sarah Gilberts, is now in charge of the district wellness coordinators. And I think she's the only certificated member who is on the district organizational chart. So she continues to contribute to our entire district and the wellness of all students. During the COVID shutdown and ever since, our staff has worked to engage students, build connections, support their mental health, emotional wellness, and address academic needs and interventions while still teaching academic standards. Our school is not unique in this, but I have personally observed and participated in these efforts to help our students. And I am proud to work at Canyon among such exceptional colleagues, and I hope that you remember all that we do to support our students as you lead our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Victoria Robinson.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you. It's my first time addressing you, and it's an honor. Thank you. I was a student at Sierra Vista, and I graduated from Canyon High School. And now I'm back as a teacher at Canyon, and I teach in the math department. And I also have the privilege of being the chair of the math department, so I see a lot of what happens there. And I want to share that with you tonight because some great things are happening. And these teachers, they have one heart, and it's for the students and the quality of their teaching. Each teacher, they're devoted to capturing kids' hearts. They want to know their students. They want to get to know them. That helps build that relationship so the students want to learn. and that's what we're shooting for. We want to get to know the students outside of school, in school, what's troubling them, how can we help them learn better. We're addressing our curriculum. We're always looking at our lessons. These teachers work together really well in their content teams. They're planning lessons, they're pacing lessons out, they're looking at their assessments. Everybody's using common assessments. They're reassessing their results. They're talking with the students about it, and they're improving. We're offering new classes constantly. So we're employing, let's see, what do we got? Some new foundations classes for students coming in who don't have the skills yet. We're giving them those skills so they can be successful. The newcomers who have trouble with the language, we have new classes for them. We're implementing AP Pre-Calculus next year, which is a brand new class for those high achievement students. We're also looking at doing some more co-teaching classes so we can bring more of our special education students into the general education classes so they can be more successful too. We also are looking at ways to improve CASP scores. So we're implementing a lot of practice through all of our levels, and we are the only school who did not drop their scores last year, and we're looking for great scores next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Victoria. Okay, well, Shelley Holcomb is the principal who's here to make a presentation. I did want to say as she's approaching the dais that the Canyon Girls varsity basketball team is playing tonight as we speak in the CIF 2AA quarterfinals against LaSalle High School. Canyon has a great team this year. I've been to more than one of their games, and they are outstanding, and we wish them the best of luck tonight.
You want me to announce the score?
No.
Okay.
No, you're making me nervous. We're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. We're down a little bit. We're going to be fine. I've got it. Can you see? Well, it's a great night to be the principal of Canyon High School. Thank you very much to spread that additional information. Thank you, math team, for showing up. I'd also like to thank you all for the opportunity to be here this evening and to tell you about one group that we are housing under our umbrella of wellness and safety, known as GONUS. This is a brand new program for us here at Canyon High School this year. I've brought some members, or some of our founding cowboys of the group. Gentlemen, please stand up and introduce yourselves. Thank you, boys. We also will be introducing two brand new counselors that are overseeing this program this year. Mr. Zuniga and Ms. Gonzalez, and they will have the opportunity to tell you all about our program. Go Cowboys.
Thank you, Ms. Holcomb. Thank you, board members. It's very exciting to be here. First time being at a board meeting, so this is awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit about ganas. So what is ganas? Who are we? As a child, I would hear from my parents, métele ganas, échale ganas, put forth the effort. What does that mean? And I would hear it from my parents, but I was like, are they going to show me how to do that? They would say go for it, but they really didn't teach me the how. So that's one thing we want to do with our group of young men. How to do that, how to be a student, how to be a good student, how to study, class behavior, expectations. That's part of our group. That's what we want to teach these young men. So why is there a need? There's a need at Canyon because after analyzing some data, we found that an achievement gap with our 10th grade young Latino males. Primarily due to low grades, poor attendance, lack of motivation, possible discipline issues, and little to no school involvement. So our goal is to close this achievement gap. How, you may ask? With the kids, we started by building relationships, meeting with them, building trust, being mentors to the young men and positive role models. We wanted to help the students make a connection to Canyon, get involved, and already they're doing it, maybe without even knowing it, by being part of our group. We provide additional support for the kids, academic support, motivational skills, teaching them study skills, some life lessons, such as how to tie a tie, some test-taking skills. We go over graduation and college requirements. We're helping them set some career goals. What's out there for you guys? I was just talking to an audience member before the meeting, and we were talking about welding. Like, go for it. That's available to you. They have it at COC. We provide food and snacks and showing them, look, we believe in you guys. You can do this. They could succeed. We're also providing additional support from what they are already receiving at home. And again, lastly, just demonstrating some care, genuine care for these young men, part of our group. The selection process, how were these students selected? So looking into the data, again, we discovered that students had area of need primarily with some grades, attendance, and they were also selected based on teacher or staff recommendations. Now I'll pass it over to my colleague, Ms. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Zuniga. So the guidance program is helping us meet the LCAP goals, the school-wide goals, and also the district's strategic 5-year plan goals. Specifically, guidance is helping develop practices that encourage productive relationships and inspire positive behavior patterns. We are also creating systems of support to impact student attendance, behavior, and social and emotional well-being. And lastly, we are targeting open access to available opportunities and programs for underrepresented students. In this case, our Latino 10th grade boys. Our Ghana students have been involved in many activities this year at Canyon. We have some highlighted on the slide in front of you. Besides attending our weekly meetings, students have participated in the Wellness Forum and with Straining Reins. Both of these programs focus on team building, setting personal goals, and bringing awareness to mental health. We are also excited to be collaborating with our Wellness Center to have our students participate in the Bro Code Male Empowerment Workshop, which is happening this spring. We would like for you to hear from some of our Ghana students about their experience in the program. We have a short video to watch about what our students are experiencing.
Being ready. He's socially, emotionally, physically, mentally. They help me with like schoolwork and everything. They help me to get like my grades up. They're very supportive and before my grades were usually F's and D's. Now I have A's and B's. It's helped me want to be a better person. They can come in and help they can help us with some of the grades, like after school or on Fridays, late starts. Better grades overall. This is how I see myself too, and with grades. It has me question like what I want for myself. The simple life lessons. Yeah, and they got snacks too.
We did have a guest speaker who was going to speak today, Angel Alonso, but he got called into work last minute, so he wasn't able to be here. But hopefully you'll hear from some of our other students later in the presentation.
So moving in the right direction. Now that we've established some trusting relationships with the kids, we want to take the next step. The students are seeking support from us. They're coming by our offices. They've gotten to know us. They're even going by and talking to Ms. Holcomb. They're focusing on their grades more. They're talking about Canyon. They're talking about involvement. We have them writing in journals, probably something they wouldn't have done first semester when they first got to know us. And how about the future of Ganas? We want to continue towards our goals, closing that achievement gap, and further connection to Canyon High School. We would like to see some of our members become mentors for future groups, possibly starting a 9th grade group next year. We want to give them some real-world experiences. We surveyed them, and now we're asking them, what would you like to see as part of the group? They want some field trips. They want some speakers. They want some more outdoor activities. They like the outdoors. And then possible long-term goals, expansion. Be great to see Ganas grow and have a group in other schools. Ladies and gentlemen, board members, this concludes our presentation. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be here. It's been great. And if you have any questions, we're here for that.
Thank you very much. Board members, questions, Linda?
Sure. As a teacher at Canyon for 30 years, little gold and green here. Congratulations, guys. I think and one of you said it, just being part of the group, just that first step makes the whole rest of it seem to work. I'm so proud of you for doing this and wanting to do better. And I know that Canyon is an amazing place to be. Your principal and everyone that works with you, we all wish you such success with this. And you will look back 10 years from now, wherever you do, whatever you want going to do, and you will know that this program, being accepted and being part of it, is going to make your future so much better. So congratulations for taking the first step.
Other questions?
You're a little biased there.
I am a little biased, just a little.
Go ahead, you go first.
Thank you very, very much. I am very, very excited because, one, you started with the data. You looked at what the data was showing and where the gaps are and where the opportunities are for us to do better and do more. And then you figured out a way to identify and find the students who would not have, but not for Ganas, would not have had the opportunities to have that sense of belonging, to have that. It's little things that make a difference. When you are a part of a group, and just having these young men here tonight, that is a big deal. And you've elevated already their sense of pride about being a part of Ganas. When you hear people say, "Échale ganas," or, con ganas, it makes, it's like that push, that little extra push. So I love the name too of the group, and I look forward to your growth. I think it is something that, as we continue looking at the data of our students who need just a little more ganas to help get them across the line, that we'll find that your model is something that we all will benefit from in other schools. So I thank you for putting forth that first, so that we can all learn from what you're seeing. The video show that they're feeling better about themselves, grades going up, and just many more opportunities. And the teaching how to tie a tie, little things we take for granted, makes a big difference.
Joe?
Yeah, can we bring the students up? You guys ready?
Yes, one of our students would like to say something.
Okay.
There is one more thing about the group. Like, they never give up on us students. Like, when they see us like upset or down or having our grades like low, like they come up to us and like call us into class. They ask us like, what's wrong, like what's going on. They never give up on us. They're always like on us to help us. They'll tell us like, hey, like if you need help, come on Friday night, not Friday nights, Friday mornings around, let's say 7:40 or 8, at least 8. Some students will come in, get help, or after schools. They never give up on us. They always help us, and we're willing to they're willing to help us with us for everything that we need help with. Yeah.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Can we have all three students come up? You guys ready to speak?
Just what they wanted.
You have a question, Joe? For
First of all, I appreciate you coming up, and I appreciate you being here. I always love to hear from the students. I noticed here that you say you have it shows that you have an adult there that you can trust, and that's a good thing to have. You guys feel that way? Did you have an adult there on campus that you can trust and go to with some of your issues?
Usually no, at least not until I was in Ghana's.
I can barely hear that. Can you?
Normally, like, I wouldn't like really have an adult on campus that like I would trust to go with like issues or when it comes to school. But like when I joined Ghana's, like all of a sudden like I actually have someone I could talk to.
How do you guys feel the program's helping you with your involvement? Is it because you know you can go there and get information you need and the help you need, or?
Personally, for me, it's helped me a lot. Like my grades are a lot better, and like being involved in like a whole bunch of other stuff, like activities, like even like sometimes it would be like we like go with some farm animals and get involved with that. It would be it's really involving. It's nice.
Okay.
Oh, also I'd like to say one thing. I like to think of this like I wouldn't like call it more of a group, but like as like a community.
Nice.
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 Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
Student board member, did you have a comment?
Oh, I think somebody just snuck away from the microphone. I see.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I think this program is amazing and beautiful. I keep on coming back to the highlights, which is slide 7, and I'm seeing how you guys are not focusing only on the academic success of students, but also the emotional well-being and like teaching them lessons that pertain to real life. I know personally, like being a student myself, there are a lot of students or kids that struggle with knowing what to do, like basic things like how to put on a tie or even applying to colleges, getting a job. I see here specifically setting up a resume. I know like a quick personal story of mine, I never knew how to do those things, and I actually did end up going to like my counselor. And for students that are struggling maybe at home or don't have greater access to that, I'm really grateful to see that our schools are pushing towards having those resources, because you know families are extremely important, and like having that community is extremely important. But if students are ever struggling at home or in their personal lives, it's a really beautiful thing to see that they do have those resources and they do have those opportunities at school. So thank you.
Thank you. You guys, great presentation. Shelley, wonderful job. Chris and Victoria, great to have you guys here. I loved your comments. You said you're doing journal writing, correct?
Yes, sir.
I think that's a really important thing for youth to be involved in, for anyone at any age, so keep that up. But young men, thank you for coming tonight. Go cheer on your basketball team. Good luck against LaSalle tonight. Let's get into the semifinals on Saturday, and thanks again. Wonderful presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, board members.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
You keep pushing.
We're going to move on to our public comments. If you wish to address the governing board on a topic within the subject matter of its jurisdiction, please complete the request to address the board form and return it to the secretary to the board prior to the beginning of the item. Comments regarding the consent calendar will be taken during public comments. Please use the microphone and state your name, although it's optional. No action will be taken on any item not appearing on the agenda, and the board president will limit your comments to 2 minutes. The president may limit public comment time based on the number of persons who wish to speak. If you wish to speak regarding an item that appears on the agenda, you will be called upon to make your comments at the time the item is discussed by the board. I'm going to call 3 names. First name, I'd like to approach the podium, and then I'd like the other 2 people to line up over by the counter to the left of Dr. Beatty there. And then when I call another name, you can please go up there. That way we can move through this quickly because we do have other business to conduct tonight. So our first speaker is Diane Zimmerman. Following Diane is Dr. Akas. and then Nancy. So if Dr. Akash and Nancy would please stand over by the counter, that would be great, so we can move quickly through.
It has been proven factually that since the government teachers' unions were formed, the quality of education has declined more each and every year. There is zero doubt that the rise in California's social welfare programs that were supposed to lift people out of poverty have done more and more damage to families, especially African American families, the very group that they claim the programs were supposed to help most. A lot of the folks who approved these programs in California were well-intentioned, regret how easily they were sucked in, hugely, by the government teachers' unions. Once the unions realized they were in danger of losing a lot of money instead of trying to improve what was literally failing, they accelerated these programs that are and have been making people more and more dependent on government-run programs that make it easy for them to just do nothing to work themselves out of bad situations. There are so many of each and every race, color, or creed that have suffered real poverty who have found and used the brains they were born with to learn the basic skills needed to succeed in life. Are any of you aware of the California's Lowell High School blind entrance exams that were based on merit only? No question was asked as to the applicant's color, race, or religion. The Chinese and Asian students came out way on top of all the others. Why? Because their parents made sure they know how to read, write, speak English. And by the way, are any of you aware that the Chinese Asian communities, white indentured servants, Mexicans, Irish, Italian, Jewish, and others were often treated far worse than black slaves? Until these unions, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, etc., we were all doing a pretty great job of getting along. A majority of people had to have a good reason not to like one person or another. Very few liked or disliked due to race, color, or religion. These are your racist organizations. Please wake up. Did you know that if a child, I already read that too, but I'll read it again. Did you know that if a child cannot read by 3rd grade, facts prove that that child would probably have a very difficult time in life unless he or she pushes themselves.
Diane?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me finish my sentence.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Okay, Dr. Akash is next, and Rebecca Hindman, you're after Nancy. If you'd please go over to that side. Thank you.
Good evening, board members and community members. As the schools shifted to virtual learning in 2020, kids' dependency on technology increased significantly. The use of cell phones among middle and high school kids has increased, and simultaneously, but not surprisingly, the case of cyberbullying, attention, and concentration deficit have also increased. Kids' math, science, and other critical academic scores have suffered a lot. Their ability to express themselves verbally has diminished. You can see kids sitting in the same room, texting each other, rather than speaking or spending time watching or making videos on YouTube, TikTok, etc. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, too much screen time can harm a child's mental health. It is not a surprise that kids' mental health has been declining, and cell phones in schools have contributed to that. The prevalence of anxiety and depression among teenagers is on the rise. A recent extensive study found 96% of the high schools and middle schools surveyed in US had some kind of cell phone policy, with 78% prohibiting cell phone use during class time. The study also found that 99% of the teachers support restrictions on cell phone use. I know for sure that all the board members here and community members here want our kids to be happy, and be mentally and physically healthy. Let us join hands to help our kids achieve their goals and remove distractions and other problems caused by cell phones. Please do some research. Think about this carefully, and if you agree, stand with me so we can change this. Thank you so much. My name is Dr. Akash Ahuja, and I'm a board-certified psychiatrist. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Nancy and Glenda. Glenda, you'll be after Rebecca Hindman, so if you'd please stand over there, thank you.
Good evening, President Jensen, board members, and staff.
Mr. Coleman, I'd like to thank you and the board members and law enforcement for your quick handling of the precautionary lockdown today at West Ranch. Hart District has always put our children's safety first, and your diligent work is much appreciated. Mr. Messina, I remember when you were president and you organized the 2022 summer webinar, School Violence Prevention, and we were given the report, Enhancing Plans and Procedures for the Prevention of Targeted Campus Violence. We were able to meet security consultant Mr. Patrick Prince and law enforcement. Because of your commitment to our children, you allowed us, parents, to be involved with this important process, to give feedback with the safe school discussion. Thank you for always governing in a professional and dignified manner. You always treat everyone with respect and civility. Thank you. God bless our children and God bless America.
Thank you, Nancy. Next is Rebecca Heinman, and then Lydia McLaughlin. If you would please come up, you're after Glenda.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Hindman, and I'm a Saugus parent. I watched the February 1st meeting and saw the amazing teachers and aides that spoke out about the need for contracting for their positions and the need for more time in the day. As a parent of an autistic child, I know firsthand what these teachers, aides, and administrators do for our children to give them every opportunity for success. I had the honor with meeting with many of our teachers in our district, and I was so impressed by them. The one thing I spotted was how short-staffed the district is, how overworked those who are in our district working with those with special needs are, and how underpaid they are. The consequences of not supporting our staff properly is that we do not only lose staff, we pay out hundreds of thousands of dollars because our district is unable to provide the proper avenues for education for many with special needs. Yes, the federal government does need to do more. While we wait for that, like waiting for Godot, we can do more and seek out grants as well as request funding from the state to assist our district in being more successful and to provide an equitable education for all. Sorry, it's one of those nights. Also, I would like to request that the board start talking about our ethnic studies classes that are coming to our programs in the few years. We do have currently successful programs running at Golden Valley and Canyons, and just to shorten up really quick, for Dr. Akash, if you have been in a classroom recently, we do have teachers that have cell phone pockets. Their cell phones go in assigned pockets. There are classes where they do have to use their cell phones for research and certain activities. There is control with cell phones in classrooms in our district, and we do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Glenda, and Cindy Jostin. You are after Lydia McLaughlin, so if you'll stand over by the counter there.
I'm going to talk unions, but before I talk about unions, I want to talk to you, Ms. Moore. This is not a speech against you. I have questions for you. After your swearing in, you had the audacity to walk up to Diane and myself with a smirk, stating this was a grassroots effort. Do you know what that meaning is of these words? Let's explain your grassroots efforts. The teachers' union is your grassroots efforts. Members who are giving their fees are your grassroots members. Members are then they're coming out and they're campaigning for you, okay? Negotiations are started between a few people in the district. A lot of you are not aware of the fact that the unions already put out what the contract was going to be. To the two members out there that spoke with the unions, don't look like that, John. Just look it up. Unions already knew what the package was, okay? With the naive union rep, the contract was ratified by the union members. And I hope to God that you guys are paying back retro pay till July of 2022. If not, that's a real, I can't even say what it is. I'm not going to finish my speak right now because I am not feeling that well, but I do wish to speak later. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Lydia McLaughlin and Virginia Ryan. If you would please come up, you will be after Cindy.
Good evening. I want to recognize that some parts of myself as a woman of African American and Ashkenazi Jewish descent in the month we celebrate Black History. I call upon the unbreakable spirit of Sojourner Truth to stand beside me. She was born into slavery. She was an evangelist, abolitionist, women's rights activist, and author who escaped freedom in 1826. After gaining her freedom, she spoke her truth as I will tonight. I'm here to speak up for safeguarding our children being indoctrinated into gender identity ideology. I will give a voice to the parents in this community that feel alone and afraid, whose child has just announced their new trans identity. I want to address AB 1266 and the harm it's doing to the children and the parents that love them. All the policies in AB 1266 leave parents like myself feeling betrayed and excluded from the conversation and what is best for our children. I want to work together as a community to change policy. I'm asking you to be curious and critically think. If you're not scared about the gender identity juggernaut that was set in motion 10 years ago in our schools, you should be, if you truly care for kids. I clearly see the people that voted for AB 1266 into law were playing the long game, foreshadowing the day that the lie that trans kids would exist and people buying into synthetically altering their children's body for profit. For this, parents needed to be excluded out of the equation. Each child is worth $1.5 million to the medical industrial complex. Kids caught in the gender trap can't see around the corner like us adults. The school district warns them about the dangers of fentanyl, and then they willingly support secret social transition, the gateway for future experimental medical treatment. Excluding the family in decisions is reckless. Schools are participating in medicine on children without a medical license and causing social and psychological harm. The tide is turning. It's time to do the right thing. Let's work together for our kids.
Thank you. Next is Cindy Jostin, and after Virginia Ryan is Betsy Schubert. So Betsy, if you'd please come over to this side. Cindy?
Mr. Coleman, thank you very much for your quick response to the West Ranch incident. And thank you, President Jensen and Mr. Messina, for always having the backs of every student and parent. Mr. Messina, it came to my attention that you too have a doctorate credit, and I thank you for being humble enough not to demand it being addressed when they call your name. This shows true character. In recent meetings, I spoke on the corrupt teachers union who claim that they are about and they care about the students. This is false. Most of their money goes to the Democratic politicians and their far left ideologies, which are destroying our youth. From lockdowns to mandatory vax, pushing abortion, pushing transgender, allowing students to be castrated or mutilated without parents' knowledge, pushing hate and division in schools because of the color of their skin or beliefs. They try to take God out of the schools, but they do support satanic clubs. What part of this is in the best interest of the students? These far left ideologies are not only against our Constitution, but against the Word of God and has no business in our schools. Every school board has a member who supports these radical ideologies. I will continue to use this platform to hold those accountable for parents that can't. The Bible warns us of such people, Matthew 7. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are raving wolves. They are hard to recognize as they preach as if they have good intentions, but are hypocrites who appear better than they are. You all here say that you are here for the students. Maybe you are, but prove it by stop teaching division, hate, and pronouns and get back to real education. And let's get one thing straight. Parents are not the domestic terrorists, but the radical left and their ideologies are. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Virginia Ryan, and then after Betsy Schubert is Matt Funicello. Matt, if you'll come up to the counter here.
Good evening. I want to discuss the lockdown at West Ranch today. Currently, there is no cohesive documented plan for ingress, egress for Valencia Boulevard in case of evacuation or hard lockdown. Should we blame the county? Exclusively, no. But for the district to sit back knowing that there's a problem and not take the initiative to partner and work with the county to fix this is horrible. There needs to be a standing plan for traffic control, ingress, egress, whether it be for evacuations or lockdowns. You cannot stop people from flooding the area, and if intersections are not controlled as quickly as possible, evacuating kids or getting first responders into the area are both nearly impossible. There are raised medians with trees planted on them, and emergency vehicles would have tremendous difficulty trying to drive over them when traffic going up the hill gets bottlenecked. The problem with Stevenson Ranch is it's unincorporated LA County, and local government representation is almost non-existent. The district needs to demand that there is a collaborative effort with all three schools, with the lockdown and evacuation procedures are, who to call, and local law enforcement to start their portion of the plan, and how staff is trained and all of that. I found out that Rancho Pico was not also put in lockdown today, and I think that it's a bad idea if there's a hard lockdown enacted for a school across the street for a potential weapon, that they aren't alerted and locked down as well. But ultimately, the district needs to demand that Barger and local law enforcement put a plan in place that can be activated at any time and facilitates emergency response and parent guardian pickup for reunions. Today's events demonstrate that the district has not learned a lesson after the catastrophic evacuation of 2018's brush fire. Valencia Boulevard was gridlocked, emergency vehicles could not access the schools, children were placed in buses and transported to COC. Parents had no idea where their kids were, and zero communication went out during the midst of this madness. I'm strongly requesting that this be addressed immediately and it be placed on the agenda for the next meeting. And all parents in the district need to be made aware of plans in place for such evacuation and/or lockdown at each school. This cannot wait and needs to be addressed immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Betsy Schubert.
Hi, everybody. It's actually really nice to see you. It's been a while. I am actually here tonight to ask for help. I am here to respectfully request that the Hart District issue a formal resolution opposing State Assembly Bill 659. AB 659 seeks to add the HPV vaccine to the required childhood immunization schedule for in-person instruction for grades 8 through 12. It's called the Cancer Prevention Act, but if you actually read the bill, you will notice that the word cancer does not appear anywhere in the text. Conversely, the word immunization in various forms appears over 30 times. This is not a cancer prevention bill. It is a vaccine bill, and it serves no purpose except to line the pockets of the pharmaceutical companies and the politicians who serve them. The HPV shot uptake has stalled at about 75%, 77 for girls, 74 for boys. The cancers HPV manufacturers claim to prevent are cervical, penile, anal, as well as oral and throat cancers. Those cancers are already statistically 0% of cancer cases in people under 20. There is no new teenage cancer crisis. Parents who have declined the HPV shot for their children have had 17 years to observe, research, and discuss this with our pediatricians. We've seen it pulled from the markets in Japan, India, and France, and we are currently following a class action lawsuit about vaccine injury caused by the vaccine that is playing out in Maryland. My point is not to debate the merits of the vaccine. My point is that there are 25% of parents who have chosen not to give their child the shot and will not be blackmailed by the state to do so at this point. Cancer in school-aged children will not decrease if this is added to the schedule, but the homeschool movement will continue to gain ground as children are pushed out of public school classrooms. With the hope of preventing substantial loss of students to the Hart District, I respectfully request that for the March 1st board meeting, you put forth for approval a resolution opposing AB 659, adding the HPV shot to the childhood immunization schedule as a requirement for in-person instruction. Please stand with us while we fight to keep our children in your schools. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next is Matt Funicello.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt Funicello. I'm a Saugus parent. I just want to touch on comments made by a member of the audience before about special education. For those who don't know, you wouldn't know, my wife, Misty, is a rap teacher at Emblem. She teaches moderate to severe autistic kids And I completely agree with the comments that were made. Special education is something that's completely ignored across this country. I do realize that every school district is limited in their budget allotment from the state, and they have to work with what they have. But I do realize that special education, specifically relating to autistic kids, is severely underfunded. These teachers and these paraeducators that work with these kids are dealt with some of the most, I mean, they get human feces thrown at them, they get bit, they get attacked, they get punched, they get kicked. I mean, my wife comes home every day with bruises, and you think she was in an MMA fight, but she wasn't. The turnover rate for staff, for paraeducators, is extremely high. They don't get compensated for what they do. Generally speaking, paraeducators almost just now got a couple extra dollars an hour for what they do compared to regular instructional assistants for general education students. I just want to, echo the concern that I have for special education. It takes a heart of gold to teach these children and to get them in a place where they can function in society. And I've seen firsthand what these kids do with really good teachers and paraeducators. I would just implore the district, if possible, if they can find some money in the general fund or some other funds that they can move towards special education, that'd be fantastic. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. We're going to move on now to information items on the agenda. The first is our school safety update. We do have one speaker. We'll take the speaker first, and then we'll move on with Kathy Hunter to make that presentation. Again, school safety update. Rebecca Hindman.
That work?
You want to do them
Yeah, just do them right now.
in 2 minutes?
Yeah, that way. Kathy
Combined,
doesn't have to
combined for 2 minutes. Okay, yep.
Okay. Get a little organized here. Hi, my name is Rebecca Hindman, and I'm a Saugus parent. In regards to the school safety update, I have heard many people come up here sounding shocked and worried about drug use and safety in our schools, like it is something new. These are the same issues from when I was in high school over 30 years ago. We just have updated drugs to be aware of, plus the addition of our children being in the school shooting era. Just today, we had a lockdown at West Ranch, and students were scared. Rumors of a gun spread quickly, and currently, when I wrote this, currently it does not seem to be a valid story. I wanted to thank Mr. Coleman for his prompt and efficient response today. As a Saugus parent, our lives have changed drastically since November 14th of 2019. Today alone, we as a family had to deal with 2 events that rattled our child's PTSD. I appreciate all that our district has done with information on Narcan, Be Smart, Safe Gun Storage, education on the website, a website that is updated and full of amazing information for those that are curious. I am pleased that the concerns of renaming Text-to-Tip and the Caroline is being reviewed. In all of the amazing updates, I do request that the new training for the APs and staff, that we make sure that sex.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our board meeting tonight. It's 7:05 p.m. We are going to reconvene to public session. We will now have a report of our closed session action items.
Move to ratify student.
District are flourishing and are now more successful than ever. I would like to take this moment to thank the board and staff for truly listening at the Safety Roundtable. Many issues that were discussed are being worked on in real time. I would also like to give a special shout out to Mrs. Dickerson at the Saugus Serenity Space. Our wellness center at Saugus has struggled with its identity and its needs for the last 3 years. Mrs. Dickerson, to the best of my knowledge, is the first dedicated full-time contracted employee for the space. Each month, she sends an email and a recorded message to us parents, letting us know what is going on in the Serenity Space, including activities and goals. They are wonderful projects, and they are helping our students daily on a daily basis. Thank you, Mrs. Dickerson, for all you do.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, we are going to have Kathy Hunter introduce and talk about school safety update.
Hello, everyone. I thought I would speak down here so I can see you all better than from my little corner over here of the world. I appreciate all of the audience comments this evening that specifically actually promote a lot of what I'll be speaking about to do with safety and wellness. So I want you to know that the two presentations I'm doing are actually combined. So some questions you may have from this first part on safety may be answered during the second part, but I'm happy to answer questions as we move along. So this is our annual school safety update. And I believe it was Nancy who spoke earlier about Patrick Prince, who is the consultant that our board brought into our district, actually back in 2012, I think was the first time, which is right after the Sandy Hook shooting. And we brought in Mr. Prince and Associates because he had 30 years worth of experience as a consultant working specifically with threat management in workplace and school violence. He had been involved in almost all of the headline cases that we're all aware of, extensive experience, and he came into our district then, worked with us on doing our very first district threat assessment team, school threat assessment teams, went out to all of our schools and actually did a full review of all of our surveillance cameras, where we were missing cameras, where were the better places to have them. Then we brought him back in 2020, of which the report that Nancy again mentioned, which is on our website, and I'll show you that in a little bit, is what we use as our guiding principles for all things that we do related to safety and wellness. So for our safety update, there are 4 areas, and this is by Prince, Callan, and Associates. They are the ones who have given us our report, and also it's our umbrella, it's our guidelines, our roadmap for how we move forward with safety and wellness. There are 4 different areas for school safety. Mental health and wellness is the first area, site security is second, policy and training, and communication. And while those are not in any priority order, I am going to put my own little spin on it based on their report, that the very first one we talk about is mental health and wellness, because that is, according to Prince and Callan, the most important part, because instead of hardening our campuses to make them safe, the idea is to soften them to make them safe by strengthening relationships. The more that we have student-to-student relationships, student to staff, student to teacher, teacher to teacher, teacher to community and parents, the more those relationships are tightened, the more people speak to each other about concerns they have, and we catch things before things happen. And when we looked at safety, we're looking at all kinds of things. I know sometimes right now we all just think of school violence, but as our special education parent who spoke about a few minutes ago, looking at what's going on in classrooms, we look at bullying, which someone else mentioned this evening, cyberbullying. There are many, many factors regarding safety, including earthquakes and fires and all types of natural disasters. And so we need to cover the gamut of those things. So when we look at mental health and wellness, I'm not going to read these lists to you. All I'm going to point out are the ones that I have put in highlighted yellow, which are the things that we're actually currently working on moving forward on. Everything else is in place. So for example, the first one up there, which is not highlighted, is the Capturing Kids' Hearts. That's the foundation of the relationship building in our schools. We brought that in years ago. All of our schools are totally involved. You heard it from actually Canyon High School when they spoke this evening, that they believe in the Capturing Kids' Hearts. It was one of the teachers who spoke about that, how incredibly important that is. That's our foundation. So what are we doing that's new? In yellow, you'll see disconnecting to reconnect. I believe actually another speaker this evening who talked about cell phones talked about the fact that we might have dwindling relationships between students because of the fact that they're so preoccupied with their addiction to devices. That is very, very real. We have started a push within our social work to work on disconnecting to reconnect, which means focusing on relationships and getting rid of our addiction technology. One of our other areas of focus focus right now is on staff wellness. We have a huge resource fair coming up on March 7th of 2023 at Rancho Pico Junior High, which you have information about, I believe, in your packets, where we have all kinds of local vendors and support providers coming to share with our staff what all kinds of things are available in our community for their wellness. Another area is obviously a focus on human trafficking prevention, which we have students right now working with our Sheriff's Department to actively create public service announcement videos like you saw this evening on the Narcan and the fentanyl. And this one's on human trafficking, but the other one is also on the technology addiction. So we're focusing a lot of efforts student-led, which is really the key part, is we need the student voice for students to recognize what their issues are that they're dealing with daily, and then to bring forward solutions to it. We also have recently signed MOUs, which are memorandums of understanding, with the Children's Bureau, Child and Family Center, and Samuel Dixon Family Health Center to help support students in our schools who actually need counseling services because of the fact that we have a huge amount of support services, but we end up getting tapped out as well. So we always are needing more providers, and we really rely on our partners to help with that. All right, if we look at site security, again, I'm going to focus on what is in yellow, other than the top one that I want to point out, which is our newest program, which was our K-9 program that Dr. Colin Nielsen brought last year. We had the dog come in and demonstrate, and it has been actively working at all of our campuses. It comes on a random basis, and all of the feedback I personally have received from parents and from students has been extremely positive. They like the dogs being on campus. They're not intrusive. We have not had any concerns with them at all. They're doing a very good job. We right now are working on fencing of Bowman, which was one of our campuses that we found out through doing our security check that needed additional fencing to close in their full campus. We're doing buzzer video entries at some of our campuses that needed that extra level of safety. We're looking at adding an additional campus supervisor for the Academies of the Canyon campus because they only have one, and they have a very large campus being on a college campus and some kind of unique challenges associated with that. And then also we've already added an additional lead campus supervisor on all of our campuses. So we're really trying to strengthening the personnel that we have to support the safety on our campuses. In the area of policy and training, we're working right now, or some of the things we just recently did. District-wide active shooter training was held October 3rd, 2022. That was at Valencia High School. Had a very good turnout. It was district-wide, so people participated from the community. We held our community safety meeting August 1st, 2022 over at the Activity Center. And I think most of you actually attended, it was absolutely packed. It is something that we found great value in. We got wonderful feedback. We've been taking the feedback and gradually implementing different practices based on that feedback. And we will be having one again next year, and hopefully every year thereafter, to continue getting that feedback from our community on ideas they have to keep adding those layers of protection. Because as Mr. Coleman spoke about at that meeting, safety is not a one-shot thing. There's not one fix-all. It is many, many layers all working together to keep our students and staff as safe as we can. We also put in additional Knox boxes so that all of our first responders can have keys to get into the classrooms and places they need to on campus. And then we've completed the SB 390 training, which is a higher level of security safety training for our campus supervisors. And we just finished our first part of that level of training with our assistant principals actually this week. In the area of communication, I think you've heard a lot of kudos tonight to Mr. Coleman for the quick communication on the incident at West Ranch. That's all been a result of the things that we have put in place to specifically address communication. One of those being Crisis Go, which helps make that communication from West Ranch immediately to my phone, to our Director of Student Service, to Mr. Coleman. We're able to immediately get information on what's happening. We were on the phone with the Sergeant's Department within a minute, if that, and had a full report back out to Mr. Coleman to be able to give to our governing board and to the community. We know that that's critical because everybody obviously have a top priority of the safety of their children on our campuses and actually of our staff members as well, and we want to make sure we always communicate as timely as we can. So we will continue working to to improve the proficiency with which we use our Crisis Go, but we have regular drills happening on all of our campuses and regular updates to make sure that everybody's trained in using that communication system. We also are looking at alternative communications for Castaic, because for those of you who know, Castaic has cell tower problems and they don't get good cell service. We've looked at multiple things, meeting with different organizations on how to do egress and ingress and basically evacuate if we need to, but mostly how to communicate during any kind of an emergency. So we'll keep you updated as we make progress on that. We also, thanks to a lot of work done by Debbie Dunn, who's taken over our communications, we have a fully updated website where we have our fentanyl prevention awareness, we have wellness resources, safety, but all of our websites have now been customized to where they all look exactly the same, so it doesn't matter if I'm signing on to Arroyo Seco or I'm signing on to Golden Valley. It's going to have the same format in the same way so I can quickly find what I need to look for, and we're hoping the community has found that as being helpful in our communication as well. And so that is my overall update, just strictly on what we've changed in the way of safety since the last report by Dr. Nielsen.
So Kathy, thank you. Here's what we're going to do since both of these are very closely related. We do have two speakers on safety and wellness for the strategic plan update. I'm going to go to those two right now, and then we'll have you come back for the strategic plan update, and then we'll field all the board questions and comments after that. So first speaker is Diane Zimmerman, and second is Glenda.
I just want to speak very shortly to the fact that I sure do appreciate all these programs that are coming up to protect the kids and to dealing with fentanyl and everything. And I know if we could just, which we all just need to watch how we vote in the general election and everything else. If we could just close our borders, we could probably do a lot within our own country here, or within the own in our state of California anyway, to delete or really lessen a lot of these problems that we're paying so much money for, instead of using the money for autistic programs and things like that that we really need. So that's all. I just want to urge you all to be very careful who you vote for. Be very careful, because if you don't look into them yourself, don't listen to your neighbor. Look into these people for yourselves, please. I'm talking to you guys too. It's everybody. We all need to be much more diligent in our investigation of who we vote for. So that's it. I feel for the autistic parents and all the money that's not going to where it should be going. It's terrible. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Kathy, you're back up now for our strategic plan update, focus area 2, safety and wellness, which ties into the school safety update.
Okay, good evening again. Such a long time apart. Focus area 2, safety and wellness. And, sorry. First of all, my first slide just refers once again to what our roadmap is, which was brought to us by our consultants, which is Prince and Callan and Consultants. Just a reminder as far as Patrick Prince, right now he is the Associate Provost over the threat assessment over at USC. He is really considered a leading expert nationwide along with his associates, and we take the information and guidance we receive from them very seriously. And as it was pointed out earlier, the actual title of the paper, which you can read at any time, is on our website. It's called Recommendations to the District, Enhancing Plans and Procedures for the Prevention of Targeted Campus Violence, and that was from August 12th of 2020. And then I wrote down there the 3 areas which I addressed in my previous presentation about why I think these things are important when it comes to safety and wellness going together, and it's not safety or wellness, they really are together. Okay, before I go any further, I only have one member of my team who is able to join me this evening, and so I just want to introduce Dr. Nicholas Beatty. Dr. Beatty is over our entire ERICS department for our district and has been with us for how many years? for 11 years, doing an unbelievably excellent job supporting primarily our students in special education who have IEPs that designate that they need counseling services. He has about 50 different people working for him, both therapist and also pre-licensed therapist, and he supervises over all of them, manages all their incredible schedules, and makes sure that we're meeting the needs of our students. So I just wanted to introduce him this evening. All right, so 2.1 is the first goal on this focus area: expand support structures to enhance student and staff wellness on each campus. One of the things that I want to highlight again is that we do have the upcoming Wellness Resource Fair that will be held for our staff members, and I think that's critically important. I just attended a recent, I think of what it's called. It was put on by Catherine Barger's office. I'm not exactly sure. It was a couple of weeks ago. We had it over at the Ice Cube. I'm not sure if anybody else happened to attend that, but really the focus was on employee wellness. And so Sarah Gilberts, who is our district wellness coordinator, and I have taken away a number of ideas about how to start addressing more staff wellness as opposed to just our student wellness. We have a flood of resources there. I know Dr. Nielsen's presented them before for our staff, but just to try to start really focusing energy in that area. One thing I'd like to do is thank the governing board because of the direction you've given us, because of your interest and passion in the areas of mental health and wellness, social emotional learning, that you've really given us the springboard to move forward in these areas to where I feel strongly that our district is leading the way in California. We constantly have other districts who call us, ask to come and visit our wellness centers, come and find out how we're doing different things we're doing. Most recently, I had districts contacting, trying to find out how we made our PSAs for fentanyl, as they, I guess, have been circulating across the area way outside of our district because the kids did such an amazing job on them. And so we constantly have people reaching out to our district as a model for these things. So we now have wellness centers on every one of our campuses. Many of our campuses have resource centers. The difference in a resource center is that is where we keep food, hygiene supplies, school supplies, any of those type of needs that families may have whenever they get in times of disadvantage, and we can help out with those items on the spot. We don't have the facility space to have those at every campus, so we share across the district, but they're housed at certain locations. We also, way back whenever we first started talking about wellness, we created the first wellness wheel, which I will show you in a minute, which shows you all the different areas that we consider part of wellness, like nutrition, physical well-being, mental well-being, behavior, etc. And we pulled up all of the local resources in those areas, vetted them, and then made a shortened list so people could actually more easily navigate whenever they need help in different areas. The social workers are very good at staying on top of that and making sure those stay current and that they are really good resources for our parents and for our students. And then we obviously have 3 different areas of mental health support. We have school counselors, we have our therapist, Dr. Beatty oversees, and we have social workers, and then we also have school psychologists who again work with our special ed students. We do a great deal of community outreach, and we have partnerships, way too many for me to list on a slide, but a couple that we deal with regularly are Straightening Reins, which do some amazing things. We're working actually right now with one coming up with Wolf Connection, and then we have our pet partners who are in all of our schools on a regular basis, really supporting our staff and our students. I wanted to show you real quickly where you can find all the resources at, because we have so many, there's no way for me to touch on all of them. So where it is all housed, and it is very rich, is just on our district website. One click right here into our wellness resources. You can go to the wellness website, or you can go directly into the wellness wheel, or you can go over here to your click links. So I'm just going to click on the wellness website. So if I go over here and I can scan down, I would like to show you just a couple of pictures in here. that show you this basic look of most of our wellness centers. They all have their own little personality because they were designed by students. So each school had their own kind of theme and what they wanted to portray, but they're all similar to this. They are meant to not look like any other room in the school, so that when students walk in, it's a reprieve and it's a place for them to be able to get the type of support that they need in the moment. There's a list of services so students can get assessment for basic needs, case management, crisis intervention. They can just drop in for temporary support, education awareness programming. They get their individual and group. They have parent education. We do tons of referrals. We do staff presentations and all kinds of programs, as you also heard this evening from Ms. Heineman, who was talking about what the Wellness Center is doing over at the Saugus campus. That's on all of our campus, but they're all unique to each campus based on their student population needs and what the students want. If I'm on this site, though, I also can go over here as a student and I can schedule an appointment. Simply by clicking on here, I go down to the school that I attend, I click here, and then I'm able to actually, although this link isn't working for some reason right now, I'm able just to put in my email as a student email, and it will set me up with an appointment with the social worker or wellness coordinator, who also is a social worker within my school, and I'll be called in for an appointment. When we do drop-in appointments, one of the things we want people to know is it's not come in and spend the entire day in the wellness room or that entire period. It's come in because you're in crisis. They're going to help you de-escalate the crisis, make a plan, set an appointment to come back, but return to class as soon as you are able to actually have your emotions basically kind of back at some kind of baseline so you're able to learn. So I think that's important for people to also remember. Okay, so tons of things for you to investigate on the website as you have time, but there's resources on depression, anxiety, anything you possibly could want. So I really, really recommend everybody just spend a little time roaming through there and see what all is available. I wanted to cover a couple of points that have come up in the community. First and foremost is, what is a wellness center? There's been a little bit of confusion that I've heard sometimes where people seem to think it's very much like a health clinic. It's not a health clinic. Health clinics have medical doctors, they have your RNs, your LVNs, they may offer vision and dental and medical. All we are offering is mental health wellness. So it is social emotional wellness, and it is guided by trained social workers who are actually clinicians to be able to offer those kind of services. And it's really to help get our students able to learn in the classroom. So if a student, for example, just found out their parents are getting a divorce, they came to school that morning, they cannot concentrate, they can go in there, have some brief solution-focused therapy session, go back to class, set up regular appointments as they need to, or maybe be part of a grief group or a divorce group to be able to have those needs met so that they can continue to access their education. That's what it is for. And then when you look down at the other corner where it says, what is a social worker? I put that on there because there's also something that's misconstrued. People hear social worker, they think Department of Child and Family Services knocking on your door and telling you, you got to report that they've been abusing their child or neglecting their child and we're here to take your child away. That is not what a school social worker is. A school social worker is there to support students and families. And so whereas a therapist who's going to potentially just offer your individual or your group or your family sessions, a social worker has a broader, more macro look at things because they're looking at the family system. Is the parent lost a job? Is the family going through some kind of grief? Are they looking for housing? Whatever kinds of needs that family has affects that child and that child's ability to get their education. And so their job is to look for all of those obstacles or barriers to education and help the family solve those problems so the child can basically be on track with their own success for the future. And so they are always there to help, never to hurt, never to split up a family. And I put this one graphic here just so you can see that we're very, very lucky to have 3 major groups serving our all of our campuses. Whenever you look at the fact that we have school counselors, which are all trained in 4 domains. They work social emotional, So they do counseling also. They do academic counseling, and they also do college and career counseling. Then we have Dr. Beatty's group who are serving all of our most needy of students who have it on their IEP. And then we have our social workers who are also providing both the clinical counseling but also linkages and resources. It's a very rich amount of services for a school district to offer. When most of us were in school, we might have had one or two school counselors for the whole entire school, and their primary job was to make sure we were in the right classes and do our scheduling and those things. So I think we've come a long way as far as what we're able to offer students. 2.2, continue to develop practices that encourage productive relationships and inspire positive behavior patterns. These are the ones I talked about a little before. Capturing kids' hearts is our foundation about building relationships, because that's how we have better outcomes both with academics and with behavior. We also have a strong foundation in the PBIS, which is Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports. We are very dependent on using the Care Portal, which is where the social workers can go in and put in that a particular student has a need, let's say for a mattress, and we'll have one of our community partners literally takes that off of the Care Portal, and they will meet that need and deliver that mattress directly out to the student. We have almost 100% success rate with all of the requests that we put into that Care Portal. It's a very strong relationship. Bring Change to Mind is now a student-led club on all of our campuses that is helping to actually start the conversation needed to end the stigma for seeking out mental health support on our school campuses. And Close Gap is one of the things that we're using as a check-in to kind of see how students are doing. Different campuses use it in different ways, usually through their wellness center. And then I thought Mr. Jensen would appreciate the fact that several of our campuses are now really exploring something called Coaching for Greatness, which is through our Flippin' group, which does Capturing Kids' Hearts. And we're really seeing kind of that tie-in between mental health and wellness and athletes in particular. And so this is a really strong program that's actually being implemented. 2.3, provide and promote cohesive systems of support to impact student attendance, behavior, and social emotional well-being. The most exciting part of this that we're doing right now is working on our 4-year, 8-semester career pathway called Human Services. And as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, those are just a very few of the jobs that can be sought out in the Human Services field, which definitely we have a lot of students with a great deal of interest in these areas. So we're working with a consultant. We have a huge team of our own employees, social workers, and people within the Career Tech Ed department working collaboratively to develop all of the curriculum, all of the lessons for all 8 semesters, which will include a peer support program, which will allow students to start actually learning the actual skills that they need to be able to start going toward a career in one of these fields. So that's very exciting. We hope to actually open it at Valencia and Canyon High School in the fall with our first semester, and then it will hopefully expand to whatever other schools are ready to hire the staff to be able to offer those courses. We're really working as a team to make sure that all of the 3 groups that I talked about, the school psychologists, the school therapists, the counselors, the social workers, are working really as a team to offer the maximum amount of services to all of the students. And then we're doing a lot of data collection, which we're very excited about the new data system that the board just recently voted on us being able to get, so that we'll be able to more easily access the data we need to see what programs are working the best and how to expand those and maybe cut programs that aren't being as successful. 2.4 is systematically identify evolving security needs, evaluate current potential protocols, and allocate resources to enhance safety. Most of these are things you already know about. We have great relationship with our Sheriff's Department. We've added in our shatterproof, I think it's called shatterproof? Yeah. No, shatter resistant. I know I was using the wrong word. Glass film on our glass windows. We are continuing to do our drills with the run, hide, fight for our active shooter drills. We have our earthquake drills. We have our fire drills. We've added surveillance cameras. We have our dog there showing you our dog program that we've started that's really successful. And then our fencing that we're adding. Again, on here, I just put the real quick little link here so you can see that anything you want to look up about school safety, you can find with one click. And it has every single school safety plan is loaded onto this website, along with, if you scroll down here, let me see if I can get the scroll thing, it'll take you directly to superintendent's messages, and it'll take you right here to the best practice report, which is the report that's our guiding principles. So just, again, I would really highly encourage people to peruse that when you have time. And then 2.5 is our last goal in this focus area, which is provide clear, consistent, and timely communication regarding safety protocols to all sites and their communities, which we've already also spoke about through Crisis Go. I didn't mention BARC, which is a very active program which monitors all of our platforms. Like if a student has email that's issued by the Hart District, it monitors those emails for alerts onto things such as drugs, self-harm, etc., so that we can follow up and check in and make sure that the student is safe. We also have our district care team, which is what we rebranded from being a threat assessment team, because again, we're not waiting for threats. We're looking to take care of students before a threat ever arises. We have those at the school site, and then when things escalate, they come to the district site, and then our district team, which is comprised a lot of Dr. Beatty and myself and Mrs. Velick, who is our Director of Student Services. We meet regularly, and we meet with the Department of Mental Health, their START team, for our highest level of students as far as their needs concerned. And I think we have a very, very robust program in what we're offering in wellness and in safety. And so while I cannot, it take me 2 days to cover everything we're doing, I hope you'll really look into some of the other materials that I've given you and onto the websites to see what else we have going on. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Kathy, this is a fantastic report, and I love your slides and outlines and the information. It's something that's been of great interest to me for a long time here in the district, so thank you very much. We'll take board comments and questions. Linda?
I'm so pleased to hear we have 50 people in the district that are serving in these positions to help kids. 30 years ago, we had Dr. Mary Morris.
There's more than 50. 50 are the ones who report to Dr. Beatty alone.
We had Dr. Mary Morris. I do want to say something about the dogs. I was visiting Rio, and I was just visiting, and the dog alerted on me. And I'm going, I have no weapons, I have no guns, I have no bullets. But the dog was, and I'm thinking, this dog isn't trained right, because there's absolutely no reason. And then I realized I had a pair of gloves on that I had worn a few weeks before, just after cleaning my personal weapon. And so it had been 2 or 3 weeks. I had put the gloves on after I'd washed my hands of the oil that you use to do your gun, and I had put these gloves on. 2 weeks later, I'm at the school, and the dog kept alerting on me, and I'm going, go away, it's not me. But very, very effective with the dogs.
Great testament to our service company. I'll make sure that I provide that information to them. That's wonderful.
I love the fact that you can go, if you have time, even if you don't have time, go on the website and click away and look at the things that we have to offer. And one more thing to reiterate what we talked about today is we had a see it, say it. I know we've got different words now, but see it, say something. All of the protocol was followed. It was done exactly like it was supposed to. And I want to thank you for that, and Mr. Coleman for the fact that it works. That's really important. You can have all sorts of pretty slides and stuff, but if it doesn't, this works. And yes, parents wanted to know right away before we knew right away, but the fact is the kids were safe. And I really appreciate that the system works, and we've come a long way. We were in great shape in 2019. But we've made major steps because of our association with Patrick, and I think you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you. It's definitely a huge team effort, and it's really been the support of the board and all of the superintendent and cabinet's efforts. We really definitely all work together.
Thank you.
Dr. Moore, did you have comments?
Yeah, I just have one. We had gotten a report from one of the schools a while back as to how many visits we had to the wellness center, by how many students, and how many were referred out and got help. Doesn't have to be this Friday, but at some point, can we get another update like that, but maybe of all the schools?
I can definitely get that for you. That's data they keep regularly. The students sign
Oh,
in
cool. All right.
on the system. And so
Maybe you could do it
while
the
I
week-
can never give names, I can give numbers.
No, that's fine.
Yep, happy
Maybe
to
you
do
could do
so.
it one of the weekly memos or something.
Yep,
you.
absolutely, happy to.
That's it.
Dr. Moore?
Thank you so much for both of the updates and both of their reports. And they do go hand in hand, our safety efforts and our goals around strategic plan focus area 2. They're very much in alignment. And we've come a long way. I remember back when we first visited Burbank to see a wellness center, and we were excited about what we saw, but to hear you now sharing that schools are coming to us and districts are coming to us to see what we're doing, I can't be more proud of the work that we have done and the investment. I said earlier, our budget reflects our values, and we've invested in wellness. We understand what it means for our students to be successful, but even more so, I'm so excited that we're focusing on employee wellness. I was at a meeting today with the chamber, and employee mental health and wellness was the issue of the day. We are leaps and bounds ahead of many organizations in seeing the importance of what that can mean for our students in our classes when we focus on our employees first, our most valuable asset. A couple things that I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of, I'm sure you're aware of, but when you were talking about the mental health and wellness slide, and you mentioned the focus on the human trafficking PSAs, I think it was 3 days ago, the CDC report came out on the issues that our teen girls are having. I really want to make sure that we are aware of what's going on about the struggles that are impacting teen girls across the country and on our campuses. I'm grateful that we are not hiding from the issues of human trafficking that happen right here in Santa Clarita. And if we can share that report with our wellness team, with you, to just highlight some of what might not be talked about, I really think it would help us take even further steps with helping to make sure that we're protecting our students. And then on the site security piece, you mentioned the fences, and I mentioned I've been at a lot of campuses this last few weeks, and one was at the adult school. They're a different audience, but they share campus or a parking lot with Placerita. They share some of their resources with TLC, and they don't have fencing now, and they're right on the corner. And I saw some things that concern me about their access and how open they are because of that. So I'm hoping that we can look into some opportunities there to support fencing there as well. And similarly, I love our focus on wellness, but I was at Bowman in their wellness corner. And I know we are looking down the road at modernization for their, I hope we get to that soon, because their wellness corner, students can't access. And we want to make sure that these students, especially who already have some reasons that they're there, have the opportunity to get the help and the support that they need as well. So I'm grateful for where we have been and where we are today. I'm looking forward to where we're going tomorrow. I'm grateful that you're leading our effort on this. I know, this slide here, this one I really like. I remember you put this one together for me, and they say the same thing, but in different ways. And I think this one shows the connection between our social workers and our wellness center staff, and how they really work together to bring those linkages and resources to our students. So thank you for continuing to work on this, continuing to have us be a model. I could talk forever too to say thank you to everyone who's been a part of this effort, because it does make a difference in the experiences of our students. So
Thank you very much. Chamber of Commerce is the thing that I attended the other day that I couldn't remember who put it on. Yeah, it was excellent. And the diagram you were just referring to, we created because our entire initiative right now is to go from me to we. So that's our campaign for internally being able to actually work as a group to make sure we're serving all of our students. So
Perfect.
thank you for
Thank
noticing
you.
that. I appreciate it.
Danielle, did you have a comment, or you okay? Okay, go ahead.
First and foremost, I wanted to commend you because I feel like as a student, we don't notice a lot of the inner workings of what's going on, and to look through that slideshow to hear all the work and effort that's been going through so many like administrators and so many adults to focus and prioritize student mental health and well-being. It's really inspiring, and I would love to work with you in the future on kind of helping. Advertise is such a terrible word for it, but I would like to help show students the opportunities that we have. And specifically, I am already planning to talk with ASBs on talking about or showing and advertising the mental health and wellness section of the Hart District website. It's a really beautiful thing, and again, as I stated before, I'd love to work with you on helping to show students the opportunities they have, and something that I feel like honestly some students may take for granted right now. The second thing, you actually mentioned it the first slide of the first slideshow, and I know Dr. Akash also spoke about it, and it's addiction to devices. I understand that we have a lot of control within the classroom, but I love the fact that we're focusing on maybe advertising or expressing the issues that students may have with that. I would even like to go a step further and also focus on section 2.2 with the relationship between students and staff, and seeing if there's a way that we could maybe talk to some of our staff members and some of our teachers about utilizing technology such as Chromebooks in the right way. This is a perfect segue. A lot of students more recently have been discussing or maybe even gossiping about how a lot of teachers are relying too heavily on technology and almost using videos or like ed puzzles as a crutch instead of actually teaching. I think the two focus areas right now are an amazing foundation and stepping stone where we could segue and start focusing on how to overcome that obstacle. Again, this presentation was amazing, and
Well,
thank you so much.
thank you very much, Danny. And I really enjoy working with you, so I would happy to collaborate together on always, for me, the student voice is the number one voice that I always want to hear and have lead the way in what we're doing. So I'd love that. Thank you very much.
Annie?
Mr. President, if I may, it's funny how that disconnected person who came out and spoke was talking about how bad it was, all the screen time you have, and here we are actually advocating for them to have more screen time in the classroom. It just kind of rubs against each other. So I thought that was funny. So.
Annie, maybe you'll become a psychologist and come back and work for the Hart School District.
I'm actually,
Don't do it.
Well, we're going to keep that in mind, okay? Mr. Webb, did you have any comments or things you'd like to say?
He was still on there.
James, are you there?
Okay, guess not.
Yes, I'm here. I'm so sorry.
Did you have any comments on this topic that you'd like to mention?
No, I just wanted to thank staff for a very comprehensive, very thorough report. Very excited to hear about the initiatives that we have, and I just really appreciate all the work that staff is doing to support safety and wellness with our district.
Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Thank you, James. I was board president back in 2019, and I vividly remember that year speaking at Canyon High School and at West Ranch High School when we kicked off the wellness centers, and among other places that we started in 2019. So that was 4 years ago. We've made a lot of progress in 4 years.
Yes.
I loved your slides. We could have this is such an important thing. We could honestly have an update on wellness, social, emotional wellness, every board meeting. It's that important, I feel. So we've made such great progress in the last 4 years. Let's make just as much progress in the next 4 years.
Well,
up through
I think we can do that
2027.
with, obviously, the board's directives, and it's your priority, which means it's our priority. And I think it's served our students and our families well. So thank
So
you.
thank you to you and Nick and everyone who's involved in social emotional learning and wellness, because it is such a huge thing in our society today and so important for students as well as families and adults, for everyone. Okay, great. We're going to now move on to our action items. And we have several of them tonight. The first one is a public disclosure of compensation increase for CSEA Chapter 349. Mr. Peshek.
Thank you, President Jensen. Before you this evening is the AB 1200 disclosure for proposed compensation changes with our California School Employee Association Chapter 349. California Government Code Section 3547.5 requires a public school employer to publicly disclose the major provisions of a collective bargaining agreement, including but not limited to the costs incurred in the current and subsequent fiscal years. This AB 1200 has been forwarded to the Los Angeles County Office of Education for their review and is presented for the board's review and approval this evening as public disclosure. At this time, we recommend the board accept the public disclosure of the financial impact of a compensation increase for CSEA Chapter 349.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mrs. Storley, to accept the public disclosure of the financial impact of a compensation increase for CSEA Chapter 349. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? Aye. And the chair says aye. James? Okay. Yeah, well, we do have at least 4 votes. Okay, next is our ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with CSEA. Dr. Nielsen.
Yes, thank you and good evening. The district and California School Employees Association Chapter 349 have agreed upon terms for contract negotiations for the 2022-23 academic year, which includes a 10% increase to unit members' salary schedules effective January 1st, 2023. Classified unit members employed on the date of board approval will also receive a 4% one-time off-schedule payment for the 22-23 school year. Staff is recommending the board approve this tentative agreement and the associated contract revisions as indicated in the attachment.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Dr. Moore, to approve the tentative agreement between the district and CSEA Chapter 349 for the 2022-23 academic year. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Student board member? Mr. Webb? And the chair says aye. Thank you, Dr. Nielsen. You have the next one also on the InfoSoft Group LLC Services Agreement.
Yes, thank you. I'm very excited about this one. Like all school districts across the nation, the Hart District has faced some challenges with job openings, specifically in our classified ranks. To assist in that area, as well as addressing hard-to-fill certificated positions in the fall, we would like to partner with InfoSoft, a recruiting service that has worked with several school districts and universities across the nation. InfoSoft will take our job postings from EdJoin and post them on an additional 600 employment websites, the Diversity Jobs Platform, the CalJobs State Job Bank, and to community organizations across the state and nation. Additionally, within InfoSoft's outreach management system are 92 contacts for veteran organizations within 50 miles of Santa Clarita. This partnership will provide the Hart District with on-demand reporting and analytics and an applicant conversion rate that is 2.5 times the industry standard. Staff recommends the approval of this service agreement with InfoSoft.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by
We have a question.
Dr. Moore,
Okay.
like to ask a question.
It's just clarifying, because I know the agreements, so Circa and InfoSoft are the same company?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay,
That's
so a
it.
motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Mr. Messina, to approve the service agreement between the InfoSoft Group LLC Circa and the William S. Hart Union High School District effective February 16th, 2023 through April 1, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? And the chair says aye.
Thank you. We intend to hit the ground running with this tomorrow morning, so thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nielsen. All right, we're moving on to item D, Cal State Northridge, Dr. Vieira.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. I'm pleased that we're able to partner with Dr. Wendy Morosky and Cal State Northridge in a series of professional development opportunities for our staff. And it's recommended that the board approve the agreement for professional development with Cal State Northridge for professional learning that is ongoing this year with our teachers, administrators, and paraprofessionals to support inclusion, co-teaching, and instructional strategies for all of our learners.
Would there be any reason why we wouldn't? It's all.
No, in fact, she's hit the ground running and is a very, we've had very, very positive reviews of her training, and it's needed in these areas, definitely.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Dr. Moore to approve the letter of agreement with the Hart District and Cal State Northridge as discussed and as itemized. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? Chair says aye. Thank you, Dr. Vieira. Mr. Otofka, I knew you were going to make it tonight.
Yes, good evening.
It's so good
I've
to
been
see
watching.
you.
Good evening,
And
Mr.
we've been
President.
missing you. So
Members
it's
of the board.
good to have you back. So you're up for item E, which is the bid package for Bowman High School fencing.
Yes, on January 30th, 2023, the district received an open bids for the Bowman High School Fencing Improvements Project. The contractor submitting proposals and their respective bids are attached. This is a single contractor bid for the entire scope of work. Staff recommends awarding bid package number BO 23108 to the lowest responsible bidder, Gold Coast Fence Incorporated. By doing this work, we are addressing an issue in the Patrick Prince report from a couple years ago. Mrs. Hunter had mentioned that earlier in the meeting. Are there any questions?
Would you say the number again?
The number?
I'm sorry, the package number?
Oh, it's BO 2310A.
Oh, okay, thank you. I didn't see it. I didn't hear it. So moved.
Mr. Jensen, I have a question.
Yes, please, Ms. Dr. Moore.
I know you said it's addressing something that was a recommendation, but it's hard for me to know where the fencing is going, the way the report is. So could you describe where it's going?
Yes. There are, if you look around the perimeter of the school, there are gaps in the fence right now. The fence will go from where right now there is an access that goes on as you're looking at the front of the school, it's on the right side, that there's a gate that goes to the back. Where the building ends, there'll be a fence, a gate that will go, I'm sorry, it'll actually, the fence will actually close off all of those portable classrooms in the back, and that'll now be part of the campus. And then if you look at the front of the school as you go down Center Point Parkway, there's some gaps in the fence. You could enter the school right off of Center Point Parkway. You will no longer be able to do that. You'll have to go through the entrance of the school to get onto the school grounds, and you'll have to do the same thing to get off of the campus.
So we'll have one entrance only.
Well, there will be a back entrance where the portables are to the parking lot. There's a parking lot behind the school, so there'll be one gate there, and then there'll be a gate. I mean, there'll be the entrance to the school, and I believe that's it.
Does the gate that's in the back, I'm sorry, does the gate that's in the back, is it manned? I'm sorry, personed?
It will have a lock on it. Yes, it'll be locked.
Until lunch or until
yes,
it's time to
someone
go?
at the school will have to unlock it and lock it.
And as you go in the front, you have to go through a one place also, correct?
Yes, and did you want to mention something?
Yeah, Mr. Otavia, I think just for a little clarification on the front side of the building, we have currently two entrances, one that's part of the gate that the students use.
That's correct.
As well as the main entrance front doors for the school. And this will really help to close off that driveway side and wrap around the back as well.
Right, we already have that gate there, that'll remain, but we're adding to the fencing around the school.
Can you just send a map?
Yes.
Okay, that shows where that,
Yeah,
because I'm
it's-
not,
It's
I'm
very
following.
difficult to visualize.
Yes.
Yeah, we actually have the bid documents that
They're not included.
specify.
No,
Well,
I
no, they're,
looked.
we typically don't.
Yeah,
But we
Mike, if you
send
can,
it to
if you can send a
We'll
map,
get that
that'd
out
be
to you,
good.
Dr.
Yeah.
Moore.
Thank you.
Okay.
And the board.
Thank you.
Okay, so-
And my question related to that is with thinking about modernization, when this fencing goes in, will it change any plans for Bowman modernization?
No, it doesn't change any plans. No.
All right.
Storley, you had the motion. Do we have a second? Joe
Sec-
Messina on
I'm
the
happy to
second.
second.
Go ahead, but I have a question, but go ahead second first.
Okay. Second.
Who has a question?
Mike, I know we go to an automatic kind of bid system where people go looking to see, you know, what we're putting out there. Do we do anything, or is there any way for us to do anything, maybe to reach out more locally, kind of get some more local involvement?
Well, we do that, I mean, we do have contractors that we work with that are local all the time.
Right, I know,
They-
but
they-
on a fencing contract, they may not be looking at something as small as fencing. Just wondering, on the smaller contracts, are we reaching out at all to any of our locals?
We absolutely do. And we tell them they need to go to our, we have to pre-qualify them. We have a system for doing that. And we tell
Sure.
them how to do all
Yeah.
of that, yeah. Yeah,
But-
we do. I mean, there's a lot of word of mouth. We know that a lot of these contractors, and a lot of these contractors we use, you know, on several projects.
Right. I just know there's a lot of times we reach out to local contractors, and now with, you know, kind of beefing up CTE, wanting them to get more involved, I was just looking for a way to reach out to them more, get them more active and involved with the district so we can.
Yeah, we work with, I mean, I could name a handful of them we work with all the time, yeah.
So,
All right,
Mr.
okay.
Messina, I'll just jump in with one more point, Mike, here. The board recently approved our transition away from Planet Bids, which, as the board may remember, required a fee for those local vendors to participate, and we're moving to that
Yeah.
Gov system, which will require no fees. And when we get that up and running, I think it's safe to say that Ms. Hanson, our Director of Purchasing, Mr. Otavka, will make a concerted effort to notify the community of that change and to encourage new vendors to come on board.
Thank you, Ralph. Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Storley, a second by Dr. Moore to award bid package BO2301A for the Bowman High fencing improvements to Gold Coast. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? And the chair says aye. Thank you. Mr. Otavka, one more. This is F on fee proposal for HVAC, but we do have a speaker card on this. John Minkus, would you come forward and speak to us then?
Real quick, I don't know, on E, it says BO2301A and then BO2310A, if that's a typo.
That's
or-
what I was,
Is that a
something wasn't
typo, or I
making-
don't know, just to inform you? Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yeah, and then, so for the next item on F, I did want to just, after reading it and reading through the attached documents, that I am not saying that I am against putting air conditioning in the gyms. Let that be known. We've always wanted it, and be it that it's appropriate. One site, I believe, does have it, and I know they still continue to use fans. So making sure that the capacity of whatever is being looked at is appropriate, but really, right now, we're looking at about $40,000 a school, except for Golden Valley and West Ranch, which combined to be $60,000 because they're the same plans, for a total of almost $270,000. I hope that there's money, plans, and timing involved in getting the classroom air conditioning running properly, so that when we start the school year this year, that those are functioning properly, and that would be a priority ahead of these things. It seems like a lot of money to spend $270,000 to kind of get a bid again. I don't know how it works, so I'm just saying, let's make sure the classroom air conditioning is working before we go adding new stuff for large amounts of money. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, Mr. Otofka, item F on the HVAC.
For several years, staff has discussed the lack of air conditioning in the district high school gymnasiums, and school administrators and community members. Air conditioning was not an amenity initially included in any of the district's high school gymnasiums. However, teams currently practice in the gymnasiums during the summer and early fall without air conditioning. While the inside temperature of the gymnasiums can reach 85 degrees during the summer and early fall, schools adhere to safety protocols during these periods, including using large, high-powered fans and scheduling practices early before the hottest part of the day. With athletic teams relying on the gymnasiums for year-round practice, for example, basketball, volleyball, in the summer heat extending further into fall, staff will explore the cost of adding air conditioning to the district's high school gymnasiums. The true cost of adding air conditioning will involve more than just the air conditioning component. A full analysis must be done to determine whether structural building modifications are triggered by adding air conditioning equipment on gymnasium roofs, and to what extent the electrical infrastructure must be upsized at each campus. Adding air conditioning to the district's 7 gymnasiums will also increase utility costs. The ongoing utility cost may be the most significant component of adding air conditioning to the gymnasiums. The attached proposal addresses the issues above, and once completed, will give staff a better idea of the total cost, initial cost, and ongoing cost of adding air conditioning to district's high school gymnasiums. Staff recommends approval of this fee proposal. David Williams from Architecture for Education is here this evening to answer any questions you might have. We're open to any questions you may have right now.
Move to approve the fee proposal from Architecture for Education for the Hart District High School HVAC replacement analysis.
I'll second it, but then I have a. I understand what John was saying, but there's also teachers that are teaching in those gyms. And if you've been in one of those gyms in the summertime, it is horrifically awful. I don't even know if that makes sense at this time of night, but horrifically awful. It's just really, really warm. And it's not just athletics. They have meetings in those gyms where they bring all of the students for some sort of announcement or some sort of program. So it's not just basketball players, though we love our basketball players. It's also students brought in to be educated about something. I would also like all of the air conditioning and heating to work in all of the other classrooms because it's awful when it doesn't. But I think that this is a worthy thing to do. Again, I'm kind of taken back by the amount of money we pay to learn how much money we need to pay, but such is life.
Yeah, this is, to get, all we've had up till now were guesses. This will give us some pretty concrete information about what this is going to cost. And this is the kind of information you need to get better information about that.
We have a motion by Dr. Moore and a second by Mrs. Storley to approve the fee proposal for the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning analysis. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? Aye. Chair says aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Otofka. Good to see you again. Appreciate your hard work. We're going to move on to item G, which is second reading for revised and deleted board policies and admin regulations. Dr. Vieira.
At the February 1st governing board meeting, board policy in AR 0440 district technology, BPAR 6062.6 use of copyrighted materials, and BP 6163.4 student use of technology were presented for revision. Also BPAR 6162.7 use of technology and instruction, BP 6163.7 internet safety, and AR 6163.4 student use of technology were presented for deletion because they were either obsolete or found in other district policies. I have not received additional recommendations specifically for these policies, and therefore it's recommended that the board approve the changes as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Dr. Moore to approve the revisions and deletions to the board policies and administrative regulations as indicated in our packet and is addressed by Dr. Vieira. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member? Aye. And the chair says aye. Thank you. All right, moving on to letter H, which is our CSBA Delegate Assembly election. Mr. Kuhlman?
Yes, the time has come for the board to consider voting for up to 3 candidates for the 2023 California School Board Association Delegate Assembly election. There are 3 names that are available to be voted on. That would be our own Dr. Charisse Moore, Mr. Christopher Trunke, and Ms. Sharon Vega. And so if the board were to choose to vote for all 3, you may vote for them all at one time.
I'd like to choose one at a time. I would nominate Charisse Moore.
Second.
Is that how it works?
Okay, motion by Mr. Messina, second by Mrs. Storley to nominate Dr. Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Student board member? Aye. Dr. Moore is abstaining, right?
I am.
And the chair
You
says
don't want
aye.
to vote for yourself? What?
Okay.
I mean, can I vote?
You can.
Aye.
You should.
Okay,
Aye.
so it's a 4-0 vote for Dr. Moore. Okay. So that's one of the 3.
I would nominate Sharon Vega.
Second.
Motion by Joe Messina, second by Dr. Moore to nominate Sharon Vega. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Student board member? Okay. And the chair says aye.
And then our third person up there is Chris Trunke. I'd nominate Chris Trunke.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Moore, a second by Mrs. Storley to nominate Chris Trunke. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Board member? And the chair says aye. Okay, so that takes care of letter H. We're down to our last action item, which is governing board meeting schedule. Mr. Kuhlman.
Yes, so the complete governing board meeting schedule for the remainder of this school year and the start of the next is attached
you.
to this document.
Move
And
to approve the 2023 governing board meeting schedule as presented.
Motion by Dr. Moore, second by Mrs. Storley to approve the 2023 governing board meeting schedule. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Student board member? Aye. And the chair says aye. Okay, excellent. We're done with our action items.
I have one question. It was about July 16th. I'm not going to be here, obviously,
Normally, we start in October, don't we?
I wouldn't sit on the
Yeah.
stand because they're not seated yet, but
Yeah, let's get back to you. We're open to it being as early as they're interested in participating, so.
okay. Consent calendar. Unless a board member has a question concerning a particular item and asks that it be withdrawn from the consent calendar, the governing board approves all the items at one time. Do we have any items of particular note that would be voted on separately or removed?
Yes. Item B, number 3. B as in boy. Mm-hmm.
You want explained or?
Yeah, what's your?
You just want to discuss it.
And item number E9. B3, I just wanted to know how we do that, how it's 25, if I'm understanding, it's 25 hours for the whole year that we contract?
Dr. Vera, you want to speak to that one?
It's actually mine.
Sorry, okay.
Yes. So we actually have a similar agreement, exactly, not even similar, exactly the same with Cass Stake that we approved earlier this year. They do not have a full-time librarian available to review certain materials or sign off on certain things that need to be signed off by the librarian. And so we provide this opportunity through this agreement that if they need somebody to do that, we will find one of our librarians to serve in that role for them, and they reimburse us for that time.
So it's paperwork, signing off, they need a credential librarian.
Correct.
So it's up to 25 hours for the entire year,
Correct.
and it's extra duty time.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Okay,
And
that was my question on that one.
Was it E9?
E9,
Very last
Um,
one, okay.
I just can't read it, so I don't know what it says. No, I put my glasses
Pre-qualification
on.
list?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
In other words, you can't read the attachment, Dr. Moore?
Right.
You can do
Okay.
this, you can do this.
No, in my
Sorry.
this.
Okay, if you go online, you can hit the control, I understand, hit the control plus, and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, obviously she didn't listen, that's okay.
Can I make a suggestion in the future, when you have sheets that are like this, can we put them on the larger, for us more seasoned people, larger paper and include it in the packet?
Let me speak with Ms. Hanson about what alternative formats are available from that software.
Make it huge online.
Then you have to slide back and forth and kind of
That's
line
true.
it up.
Yeah.
I
You
did
have
the
to
same
slide
thing.
back and forth.
So,
I printed on a
you-
13 by
I'm
19.
happy to approve it, but
okay.
I can't really approve it because I can't see it, but but if you've looked online and have been able to
I've
scroll
looked
back
at it
and forth.
online.
See it online.
Okay.
Okay, we'll try to enhance that, right, Ralph? Okay.
Yes, sir.
thank you. Okay, so do we have a motion and a
Sure.
second then on the consent calendar?
I'd like to approve the consent calendar. Move to approve the consent.
Dr. Moore, Joseph?
Second.
Second, okay. So a motion by Mrs. Storley, second by Mr. Messina to approve the consent calendar. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Student
Aye.
board member? Chair says aye. Okay, thank you. So we finished with the consent calendar. And now we're down to items for future consideration by the board.
I have a question.
Question for future consideration?
A question about this particular item on our agenda. Can, besides saying it here, can we request an item to be added to the agenda through the president? Or,
Yeah, it's always the
Yeah.
president and the superintendent prepare the agenda together.
Okay.
So
Anytime you can call.
okay, because I have a couple, but I don't want to do it right now because I didn't bring that paperwork. Thank you.
Any other?
I do. I know we've kind of talked about this, we touched on this in the past, like a vendor fair. We used to do a vendor fair once a year or once every other year, where we invited local vendors in and kind of encouraged them and helped them do business with the district. And I know at one point we partnered with the city, I think. And I'm not being negative, but I don't know how effective it is or isn't. I don't know how many of those people have actually signed up to do work with us. So I don't know how often we have those either. The other thing I've kind of talked to in bits and pieces around, and I'm not asking for a study session, but I'm asking for us, because I know how long it takes to start thinking about this. And you know how I feel about career tech ed and career tech ed centers. And I know that I know Bowman is busting at the seams. It's a great school. We all talk about how great it is. I'd like to see somehow try to work something out. We have a ton of property, and it'd be great to have a Bowman at both sides of the valley, one in Valencia maybe and one over on Canyon Country. Split it up a little bit, take the Bowman campus and see if we can't do something with it to turn it into an actual career tech ed center. There's no room there for sports or anything else to speak of. So it's just something that I'd like to start to toy with if we could, and the feasibility of yes, yay or nay. And then the only other thing, I know that we have excess property all around the city, and I know that we've touched on and talked about doing something with teacher housing, some kind of teacher housing. Because, we always hear about how hard it is to live here and how expensive it is. If we can put something together for newer teachers coming into the valley to kind of get situated and settled and what have you. I know that we almost had a deal with the city and that fell through, and that would have been a great opportunity for our teachers. So those two items in particular, I know the Bowman thing is more long-term, but I'd really at least like to start talking about it and putting some of the pieces together, because I'd love to see a real solid career tech ed center. We're a pristine district. We deserve it.
Thank you. Dr. Moore?
Thank you. You reminded me of something too that I want us to look at a little closer. And I brought it up a little bit when we were talking about our libraries, but a recent study that I've read spoke to the importance of literacy. And I know when I last asked for some data around our reading scores, that was one of the areas that we were struggling with. And I'd like us to look at how we can better support our libraries, fund our libraries, and the staff in our libraries.
Good. So funding, staffing, supporting.
Books.
Okay. Excellent. And I had one comment myself. I mentioned earlier after Kathy's report that I felt like we should be having updates more often on social and emotional learning, all these types of things, in my mind, both for students as well as for faculty and staff. So, Mike, maybe you and I can talk about, rather than an update once a year, it doesn't have to be a 30-minute update, but maybe once a quarter. It's such an important topic that I think that on a quarterly basis, we should be having some kind of an update. The slides you presented were excellent, and we need to get that out to the public and emphasize that more. So that's my point. All right, it's 9:35. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr.
Excuse me,
Cena.
can I modify that? Motion to adjourn in honor of Michelle Jenkins, who
Yes.
recently passed away at COC.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Messina, second by Dr. Moore, in memory of Michelle Jenkins from College of the Canyons Board of Trustees. All in favor?
Aye.
Board member?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Thank you.
Aye.